I have an important gift, and it's called life advice. And I have an expert. He's one of the best, and he shoots straight, and that's one of the things I like. You know that on this show. Dr. Gad Saad is joining me on the phone right now. He is not just a professor of marketing at Concordia University in Montreal, but he's written some books. He has a YouTube channel. It's The Sad Truth. Dr. Saad, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. Good to be with you.
Yeah, no, it's great to have you because I'm not kidding. I like straight shooters, and I think that you cut right to the chase on this life
so
advice.
Can I say that I was triggered and I need a safe space because you mentioned Merry Christmas and Chag Sameach?
Chag Sameach. Yeah, exactly. Well, this is actually something I've argued for a long time, is the fact that the First Amendment means that you have the right to be offended. And I actually said, I was almost 2 years ago now, I think, on Fox, that I said we need to have insensitivity training for incoming college freshmen. I believe I was even on the show with one of your guests, Gavin McInnes, at the time when I said that.
Oh, right, yes.
But I'm a political agnostic, so I pick and choose my topics where I stand politically. But let's get to this point of life advice for young people, right? I mean, so here we have a larger group than the baby boomers, and they are going to leave obviously a gigantic mark on this world, and they're trying to find their way through society. And some of them, like every generation before them, some of them tend toward socialism and communism and want us to support that. And I think you and I both fight pretty hard against that specific political agenda. So what is it for young people? And you wrote about this. I mean, you were asked to write about this. It's on Psychology Today, and in the Life Advice Guide. So let's get to these key points for young people. I want to start with the first one because I have a couple aspects of it I want to challenge.
Sure. So the first one, I basically said, pursue a career that you are passionate about. Now, it sounds like it's cliche, but it really isn't, because I think one of the sources that, makes me happy, one of my sources of happiness, is that I wake up every morning incredibly excited about the day to come. And I don't mean that in some blasé. I truly mean that, because I get to choose the hours that I work. I get to choose the types of problems that I tackle. I'm truly passionate about living a cerebral, intellectual life. So I've been fortunate enough to actually have a career in that which makes me happy. And, of course, not everybody can ultimately find that source of happiness, but to the extent that you could look for certain ways to not fall into the trap of my dad was an accountant and my grandfather was an accountant, therefore I'm expected to pursue in that line of work, then you will wake up when you're 55 and realize that, I never wanted to be an accountant. I wanted to pursue art. And so try to spend enough time introspecting about what makes you happy and then pursue that profession.
So, and here's my one challenge in that, Dr. Saad, is pursue it. So that's where you have to, this is where details matter, right? And we can parse the words. Pursuing it doesn't mean don't find a paying job to pay rent while you're trying to pursue the career that you ultimately want. In other words, if you have to take a job sweeping floors and flipping burgers so you can pay rent and put food on the table while you pursue a career of becoming some wonderful, amazing, whether it's an artist, an entertainer, or an attorney, or whatever that might be, hard work is part of the process.
Absolutely. And ultimately, everything has to be balanced and rooted in common sense and in reality. If you're 57 and you're still trying to pursue your break as a superhero in Hollywood, and you've received 35 years of feedback that suggests that you're not going to be the next Hollywood star, then maybe it's time to give up that dream. So, of course, I mean, I'm not suggesting that we create dreams in technicolor, as the term goes, but rather, don't put artificial barriers. I'll give you one great example. There's a former student at Concordia at my university who was a guy who escaped the Holocaust and came to Canada, worked his whole life, and then in his 60s when he retired, he decided to go back to school because he had never had the opportunity to study. He ended up doing a bachelor's, a master's, and then finished his PhD, I think, in his late 80s. Now, most people would have probably put the barrier of, I'm too old to go back to school. So all I'm saying is, try to liberate yourself from some of the unnecessary shackles that otherwise bind us.
Well, and that really ties right into your third point, which is the whole topic of group conformity, political correctness, and other forms of thought policing. Now, we're in the Bay Area, and I've lived in places like Texas, too, where they have maybe opposite politically, but the same thing where people get stuck into, echo chambers of confirmation bias. And there was even a report I saw the other day that we now are choosing to live near people who only believe the same way that we do. How does that fit in?
Well, I see it everywhere. So I see it in academia. I see it on my Facebook pages. I see it at the parties I go to. Look, people who are interesting. If I were to ask you, list the 5 most interesting people that you know personally, or list the 5 most interesting people in history that you would have loved to meet, probably the one thing that they have in common is that they are irreverent to orthodoxy. They are irreverent to whatever is the current zeitgeist. What made them memorable is that they pursued their own path. They broke through the mold of whatever was the commonly accepted story, whether it be in science or in art or in literature, in anything. And so, but most people, regrettably, suffer from the desire to belong to the herd, right? So there's always this tension between trying to be distinct from everybody else, but ultimately we are a social species that is bound by these rules so that you don't get ostracized from the group. And so what I'm saying is try to use a colloquialism, grow a pair. Don't always be afraid to enunciate your position. If you love Donald Trump, walk up in your university campus and feel proud of your position and defend it. Don't cower to the masses.
This is, look, I actually apologize that we're out of time. I'm going to have you back. I'm going to have my producer get in touch with you. We're not done with this conversation. Dr. Gad Saad, you can find him on Twitter. It's at Gad Saad. By the way, it's spelled G-A-D and then S-A-A-D is his last name, Dr. Gad Saad. Dr. Saad, thanks for your time this morning. We're going to talk to you again soon, okay?
Thank you so much, good sir.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate your time, and Chag Hanukkah Sameach. Merry Christmas.